Let's listen in to, after obviously a difficult draw, dropping points, Pep Guardiola, you can imagine, wasn't the happiest camper after the match.
Hi Pep, just ask what you thought of the team's performance and how you see the rest of the title chase, please.
Still 9 games to play, for them one less, and now it's Newcastle. Always I thought about that, so what's next? So nothing too much, analyze, and in general was a good performance in many good things, and of course there are things we can improve and some departments, but in general it's really good.
Leading at half-time and let slip another lead. It's now 13 points dropped from winning positions this season. That sort of can't go on, can it?
Yeah, maybe it's a lot, but there are games that maybe you deserve it, but today we play in general good 90 minutes, more than 90 minutes. So it was a momentum, yeah, the first time you can say, okay, you cannot stop the transition, it was a long ball, you had to defend. It's not about this action or the other action. In general, when you analyze the game was well played. So we create a lot, and a team that's so defensive, a really good team. We're dynamic, and yeah, we miss maybe look for contact more with Erling with his incredible movements. We have to look for a little bit more, but a part of that, in general, was well played.
So Manchester City drop points at the Etihad. It puts them in a really tough spot now when it comes to the title. You mentioned something interesting going into this game where you weren't very confident in their back line. You were expecting Forest to get some goals in this game. You're also expecting Real Madrid to be able to score goals in the Champions League against them. Yep. We'll get to that a bit later. They allow 2 goals. They are far too open sometimes at the back. What were your thoughts on what this Manchester City did today, knowing they needed 3 points after Arsenal had their win? What would you expect from this team? Why did this happen?
Well, listen, and first and foremost, I think the Manchester City should be scoring 4 and 5 and 6 goals against this Nottingham Forest. They're a team that are fighting relegation. That point obviously keeps them out of the relegation zone, regardless of the results around them. You can catch up what happened later on in the show. But I do think that Manchester City are their own enemy. I think defensively, Guehi and Diaz, a lot of people have been talking about how this is going to be the best central defensive pairing in the Premier League. I mean, think again. I mean, it is so suspect defensively because of Aït-Nouri and Núñez playing right back. The fullbacks are not fullbacks. They go forward. So it leaves the 2 centre-backs completely exposed. Rodri's not a defensive midfielder anymore. He's a Ballon d'Or winner who wants to score more goals than everybody else who plays on the team. So City leave themselves suspect. And that's why I think that Nottingham Forest obviously got their opportunities. They had 4 shots on target, Forest, in this game. 4 shots on target for a team that's fighting for their life. I understand that under Vitor Pereira, you're going to have a bit of fight and a bit of battle. But Pep Guardiola can't be happy with that. He looked frustrated, and I think it's probably more offensively. I'm picking on the defence, because I think there's a vulnerability there. And it's been shown this season. They've conceded, 5 more goals than Arsenal, even though they've scored exactly the same amount of goals. There's a big concern, I think, for Manchester City offensively. I know they scored 2, Stefano. But Erling Haaland started this game, and I know you're not happy about him, and I know many people out there are not happy because he was probably the captain of your fantasy team. Erling Haaland has scored 3 goals in his last 12 games. Yeah. Where's Erling Haaland? Has anybody seen Big Erling? Is he preparing for the World Cup already? In my personal opinion, the biggest problem, and this is the biggest drop-off, which is why Semenyo's getting credit because he's scoring goals and keeping City winning games. This is obviously the first draw in, I think, 6 or 7, where they were consecutively winning games. I think at some point we've got to start to question Erling Haaland here. Now, I'm crazy for probably saying this, but City have recently been better without Erling in the team. They have been. Crazy. And it's crazy to say that. I would never leave him out. I would always leave him in. But City have been better recently offensively and winning games when Erling doesn't start games. So I think that at some point Pep Guardiola will look to rotate a little bit more. And I'm going to throw it out there. I think that Champions League game might be the game where Big Erling might have to take a place on the bench.
That would be some decision from Pep Guardiola to do it in that moment in the Champions League against Real Madrid. You went out on a limb in January and you said, title's done, Arsenal's winning the Premier League. asking you again now after another drop points, you're still very firmly with this belief?
Yeah, Manchester City not good enough, not consistent enough. I thought there was going to be a bit of a run. Obviously, recently they've been very good across multiple competitions. They were excellent actually in their Premier League. I think they won 6 in a row or 5 in a row. I know they won a couple of FA Cup games in between against Newcastle and Salford. But City have looked good and they've looked better. They've won games consistently. But my biggest problem is the inconsistency. I love the question from the reporter right there saying dropping points from winning positions. That's nowhere near good enough for Manchester City. You simply cannot afford that. You're in a title race. So to answer your question, I am sticking by my guns and saying that Arsenal are already champions of the Premier League. They already were back in January. No one else was competing consistently enough with them. And even when City were winning games, they weren't blowing teams away.
Right.
They were just winning games and finding ways to win games, which was good. That was an improvement, especially from last year. They were not even at the races with Liverpool last year, and no one is at the races with Arsenal this year. And Arsenal, albeit not thoroughly entertaining, are finding ways to simply put points on the board and get it done. I think it's over.
Style points don't matter in the table.
No.
It's just about getting wins. You mentioned the back line for Manchester City and how many issues they've had. Nottingham Forest, before this match, in the last 3 matches, had 66, not on target, 66 total shots, 1 goal. Today, 9 total shots, 2 goals. So that goes to show you that this back line is clearly in shambles when it comes to certain games, certain moments where they just kind of turn off. And it happened in this game against Nottingham Forest.
Big time.
So Pep Guardiola, not very happy after his match. Mikel Arteta, pretty happy after his win.
It's a huge win. We knew how tough it was going to be. We're coming back from very difficult games with a lot of intensity, with players really going through the line in every game with difficulties, not able to train, and to come here and get the result that we got. I think it's remarkable. It is the league. I mean, when you look at the amount of minutes that players have played in comparison to last season, they're already much higher than last season. That's the schedule. That's the normality that we have now in the competition that we are in. We have to accept it. But the level of energy and desire that they put in, it's phenomenal.
Arteta, clearly, we've seen him in the last couple of press conferences. I don't think I've ever seen him smile more in a press conference ever. The last one and here in this one today. This side, again, proving that we mentioned style points don't matter. They don't get really a ton going forward. But this back line is special, the way that they play, and just do not concede goals on a consistent basis. That's what's going to get them across the line in this competition and maybe multiple trophies, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think Arteta's learned his lesson that you don't have to be exhilarating and entertaining to win the Premier League. And I think right now there is not a competitor who's good enough to be able to compete with this Arsenal. They're simply winning games by 1-0. If you look at what they've done this campaign, Arsenal have now won 10 Premier League games by a 1-goal margin. That's all it takes. Get the winner, sit back, defend, and create opportunities when you can on the counter-attack. Obviously, you need creators. The lineup was very, very good. Saka and Timber, I thought they were excellent on the right-hand side. Timber now has got more goal contributions than any other defender in the Premier League this season by 8. And then Saka back in amongst the goals was massively important on his 300th appearance. But Arsenal, this is where I think they're winning the title, Stefano. Believe it or not, I think Arsenal are winning away from home. And that's the most important. They're unbeaten in the last 12 away matches across all competitions. That goes all the way back to December when obviously they lost at Villa Park. So I just think they're more incredible. And obviously recently they've won more games without conceding goals than any other team in Premier League this season. They find a way to get a goal. They find a way to shut up shop. If I'm talking about away from home, what they've done away this season without conceding a goal, they have gone and obviously played against Manchester United, they won 1-0. Fulham 1-1-0. Burnley 1-2-0. Everton 1-1-0. Leeds 4-0. Brighton 1-0. Without conceding and winning games, just simply getting the job done. They learned a lesson, Arsenal, I think, over recent years, and I think the pain, obviously not winning that title, has really upset Arteta, and I think it's upset his team. But he has put together an amazing roster, and the starting 11 didn't lie. It's a very good Arsenal performance. I know Fabian Hürzeler was fuming because of the time wasting from Arsenal. I know that Fabian Hürzeler was saying that Arsenal set pieces and we were the only team trying to play football. I like Fabian Hürzeler. He's a former coach of FC St. Pauli. Didn't try to play football in every game there. Maybe this is just something that Fabian Hürzeler needs to learn as well. That sometimes you need to win games an ugly way just to get over the finishing line. I think Arsenal are already champions, full stop. I don't see anyone competing with them. Right now, there's not a team in the race.
Yeah, I'm with you there. And you mentioned the clean sheets. For David Raya, this is his 43rd clean sheet since arriving at Arsenal. I mean, this is just elite stuff. Elite stuff when it comes to the back end of the pitch.
And they had a
Arsenal.
goalkeeping problem before he arrived.
Yeah.
And then to have a goalkeeper, and like, he is obviously a rock, because now we're not talking about goalkeepers. I know against Wolves he made a mistake, right? Yes. But he just doesn't make a mistake. When he does, everyone's like, oh, he's normal. He's a normal goalkeeper. Defensively, they're incredibly solid, right? And they will make mistakes because pressure at this end of the season, when you've got this much of a gap, I've never been in that position, so I can't say it personally. I have in the second division in Germany, where I've gone for promotion and gone for the title and won it. I will say this, nerves creep in. Mistakes will happen. Just to get over the line, you just know. Don't make mistakes. Keep it solid. Get the result. Get out of there. Move on to the next game. That's what Arsenal are doing right now.